I'd like to welcome everyone to the webinar today, Put Waste in the Right Place with the City of Hamilton. And I'd like to introduce you to India Paul, the Outreach Coordinator with Environmental Services with the City of Hamilton, and also Jeff Spear, the Project Manager of the Material Recycling Facility, also within the Environmental Services Department with the City of Hamilton. If you have any questions as we go through the webinar, please save them till the end. It would be great that if you could raise your hand or simply type your questions in the chat box, and we will have your questions answered for you at the end of the presentation this morning. So without further ado, I would like to turn things over to India.
Hi there, good morning, everyone. Thank you for having us. We'll just get going here. Okay, everyone can see that all right?
Yes.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, so once again, thanks for joining us. This is the Put Waste in the Right Place presentation by myself, India Paul, and Jeff Spear. So we're going to be talking about things that go to the curb weekly and then how we process the waste in Hamilton, and any questions at the end. Hopefully we can give you guys a good answer. So what goes to the curb weekly are 2 blue boxes, 1 green bin, a yard waste container and or bag, 1 bag of garbage, and if there are any additional bags of garbage, you will need a green tag, which is the color for 2021. So why do we need 2 blue boxes? Jeff's going to touch on this in a moment, but that's because of our recycling facility. There are other municipalities that use 1 stream recycling, but in Hamilton we use 2. So we have our papers bin. That can consist of things such as newspaper, cardboard, computer paper, really anything paper related. The next is containers, used to be known as plastics. Some people still call it plastics, but we prefer containers. So not just plastics, but can also include glass jars, metal and cans, and milk and juice cartons. And the milk and juice cartons or gable tops or Tetra Pak, those we see get mixed up in the papers a lot of the time, but we really want to push the fact that these belong in our containers. So I'm going to pass it over to Jeff now because he's the PM of our MRF. So he's going to talk to you guys about what we do once we pick up the materials.
Great. Thanks, India. And thanks for having us today, Amy. So I'm here to speak a little bit more about our materials recycling facility, which is our MRF for short. So you'll hear me use the term MRF quite a bit throughout this little section here. We're located down on Burlington Street East in the city of Hamilton. And there are 2 areas, as India mentioned, we're a 2-stream MRF. So we have 2 areas inside the facility where trucks tip material. One side of the facility is for our fiber material, and the other side is for our container material, as India mentioned. So once the loose material is tipped out of the garbage trucks into our facility, which you can kind of see in the background here, this is our container area at the facility where they tip those. It's loaded into a hopper. So we see the front loader there in the background. They'll pick up a load of the material and then drop it into a large hopper that is then attached to a bunch of conveyors and other equipment. So then we start sorting the material using our mechanical separating techniques and manual sorting as well. So it's a combination at our MRF. So what I'll touch on first is our fiber sorting line. It's a bit more simple than our container sorting line because with paper, it's a little bit of an easier material to handle. It's not as 3-dimensional. It's a bit more 2-dimensional. So it's a little bit of a less complicated system. So we start with our fiber infeed. On that other slide, I mentioned it's a front loader that loads up the material. On the fiber side, it's actually a bobcat. So it's a bit of a smaller infeed for the fiber material. And they use kind of a claw attachment on the front and then drop the fiber material into an infeed that feeds it up a conveyor belt. And as it goes up the conveyor belt, the first spot that it gets to is the OCC screen. And OCC, there's a lot of short form terminology that's used in recycling. So OCC stands for old corrugated cardboard. So just cardboard, basically. And what the OCC screen does is, because a lot of cardboard pieces are larger, they come from larger items, it's easy to screen those out based on size. So the cardboard is pulled out and separated first. And we do have a manual sorter that stands there and actually breaks open bags of material, because we do accept bagged material at the curb in Hamilton. And then they pull out cardboard as they're sorting there as well. We then have another manual sorting station where the task of that sorter there is to actually pull out contamination. So these are any items that should not be included with the fiber material. These would be anything that would be garbage material. So you'll see in the next section there, where it's another manual sort station, we do pull out the containers that end up in this side. And as India mentioned, we'd rather have the gable tops, the milk cartons, those things with the containers. But if by accident they do end up with the fiber, we do have a sorter that pulls out any container material, and then it goes over to our container sorting line. And then our last section here is our fiber baler. So once all of the material is, goes through the conveyors, all the bad stuff, the contamination is pulled out that is going to the garbage, the cardboard is pulled out, and then all of the containers are pulled out, we end up with just fiber material now. So this would be your printer paper, your newspaper, your old box board as well. So those are things like cereal boxes, cracker boxes. All of that material goes as one commodity type. We bale that up and we sell that as a mixed fiber material. And then the other one that we sell is, as I mentioned earlier, we take out the cardboard. So we bale the cardboard separately as well, and we sell that on the commodity markets as well. So we end up with kind of three things here. We bale our cardboard, we bale our mixed paper, and then we actually bale our contamination as well, our residue, and we send that to landfill. So three types of things that come off of the line, and then the containers go over to the container sorting line, which I'll touch on next. So as I mentioned, our container sorting line is a bit more complex because of the nature of the three-dimensional material, but there's also, a bit of two-dimensional material that gets in there as well. Film plastics, some of the plastics, lids from yogurt containers, things like that are quite two-dimensional as well. So we use quite a series of mechanical separating techniques and manual sorting techniques where staff members have to, stand there and sort by hand. So I'll touch on our mechanical separating equipment here first. And I should mention, if you're interested in seeing any videos of any of these pieces of equipment I'm going to talk about down below here, just go on YouTube and type in any of these, drum feed, glass breaker, and MRF, and videos will come up right away that will show you any of these pieces of mechanical sorting equipment. So we start with our bag breaker. Like I said, we do accept bagged recyclables in Hamilton, so we have to have a way to rip those bags open. And it's basically a drum that rotates and just has long hooks on it that grabs the bags, and they slide in and out and just break the bags apart. And then the next one is our drum feed or glass breaker. This is a rotating large drum with a series of holes in it that essentially larger material can fall through, so glass jars, things like that. And what they do is when they fall from a higher, higher up, they obviously break when they land lower down. And then the fine material settles to the bottom and actually goes into our glass bunker. And the lighter material, so, water bottles, things like that, they actually go up and end up on the conveyor belt up at the top. In recycling, gravity is your friend a lot of times. So you have to actually get up on quite a few sets of stairs to get up to some of our sorting equipment. Our next piece of equipment is our ballistic separator, which is actually new for us. We just had it installed back in January. And what it does, it's a series of paddles that actually agitates the material back and forth and separates out two-dimensional and three-dimensional material. And it also separates material based on the size, so whether it's larger or smaller. You'll see that I've got fiber and film there. So that's where our two-dimensional materials are removed, the fiber and the film. And then the 3D stuff gets kind of fluffed up and separated a bit more so that it can end up on the conveyor belt. And it's easier for our manual sorters to actually see what's in the material, and it's safer for them as well. So that was a good addition to the facility. Then we have our optical sorter, which uses artificial intelligence and computer learning to basically figure out the plastics and separate PET and other plastics from the other materials that are still on the sorting line. And what it does is it uses a stream of air jets to actually shoot the material in a different direction, depending on what type of plastic it identifies. So we separate out our plastics there. Then we end up with our eddy current, which is basically a large magnet that spins at a very high velocity, many revolutions per minute, and actually throws the aluminum further away than the other material. So you heard me talk about gravity earlier and how that's our friend. With the eddy current, the other material, steel, or not steel now, but any residue, any garbage, anything like that, would just fall straight down. Whereas with the aluminum, like I say, the magnet actually forces it to fly through the air a little bit and end up further down in a separate area for us to separate that. Then our last one, second last one, very basic. It's a magnet. It actually picks up the steel for us and separates that out from the other material that's left on the conveyor belt at this point, which is really mostly just our garbage, because we had our manual sorters on the other side here, which I haven't touched on yet, but they've been pulling things off the line as well. So yeah, our magnet, like I say, very basic, takes the steel up and away. And then our last item of mechanical kind of separating here is just our baler. And that's just how we, keep all the materials separated, and then we have to obviously bale it up so we can ship it out. And then I'll quickly touch on our manual sorting sections here. So this is, like I say, staff that actually stand on the conveyor belts and watch material go by and pick items out. So oversized plastics, high density polyethylene is one of those. So detergent jugs, large bottles for, things like that, those get pulled off. Bulky plastics as well. So those would be, if a recycling bin accidentally ends up in the back of the recycling truck, it's not safe for the drivers to pull it out. So they just leave it in the truck, and we can actually recycle it at our facility. So a staff member has to stand and pull those out. Then our film plastic, we've got multiple locations where film plastic is removed because, as I mentioned, we get quite a bit in our recycling as we accept bagged recyclables. So we've got a manual sorter that stands there, and the film grabber is actually a vacuum that sucks up the film that they use. Then we've got plastics. We've got a manual sorter that stands there and just grades the plastics, pulls out any contamination that shouldn't be in there, and makes sure that it's clean plastic coming through for our finished product. We've got quality control and two different sections within our aluminum as well. We're lucky in Hamilton that that we're so close to so much big industry. We can sell quite a few of our commodities on the open market to obviously, lots of the steel makers and other groups like that around. So with our aluminum, we can actually make two grades. We accept foils, so pie plates, things like that in our blue box. And then the other one, UBCs, that just stands for used beverage containers. So that would be your pop cans. So that's the highest grade is the pop cans, and then the lower grade is pie plates, aerosol containers, things like that. So staff members sort those out, and then the last two, the polycoat, which that's the milk and the juice cartons, gable top. They get called many different things, but we've got staff members that stand and pull those off the line. And then the residue as well. So we've got quality control there just to make sure that there's no, aluminum or steel or good materials going through to the landfill that should be coming back and being recycled. So our container sorting line, like I say, way more complex than our fiber sorting line. And if you go on YouTube and look up any of those, you'll find a video for any of those pieces of equipment. So now that we've sorted everything that's come into our MRF, that's gone through our complex process, this is what our finished baled material looks like. So the top picture there is what those bales of mixed paper material look like. That is quite a bit there that we're going to sell to our open markets. And then on the bottom, you'll see the UBCs, the used beverage containers, the aluminum. That's the higher grade aluminum there, the pop cans that we sell on the bottom. So once we bale the material, it's stored inside our MRF as per our environmental compliance approval conditions. We do have a set of conditions that we have to obviously work within at our facility since it is a waste facility. Once enough is baled and we have enough to fill a truck, we basically, call our markets, call our trucking companies, and get these bales sold on the open market. Market values fluctuate based on many factors. We've heard about China closing their markets up a few years back there. We're lucky in Hamilton, like I mentioned earlier. We have a lot of local markets for our material. We also produce a relatively good high grade of material as well that the end markets like. You can see our aluminum at the bottom there. It's quite clean. There's not much other than pop cans in there. So they like it. quite a bit. So I always kind of throw in at the end here, what's the best way that, everyone can help us with ensuring that our recyclables are, recyclable and actually end up getting recycled? My biggest thing is make sure that what you're putting in the recycle bin is actually recyclable. Because all the garbage we receive at the MRF, it does end up at the landfill. But, I talked about all those manual sorters on the line and how all the equipment it has to pass through. That garbage goes through a lot of hands before actually getting to the landfill if it comes here first. So ideally, just make sure, like I say, that what you're putting in the recycle bin is indeed recyclable. And City of Hamilton has, some good resources on our website. We've got a recycle coach, things like that. So I'm sure India will touch on those later. But thank you for letting me talk about the MRF.
Great, thanks, Jeff. So as Jeff mentioned, if you guys feel the need to kind of look at these machines more in depth, City of Hamilton does have a YouTube channel, so you can see our actual facilities working. So you can see things such as the MRF, the central composting facility, which I'm going to touch on right now, our landfill, and then there's a whole other series of videos that just kind of go over tips and tricks just for proper waste sorting. So that's a great resource. And again, hamilton.ca is another great tool if you have questions. So next up is our green bin. So this is where we collect all the organic waste. So organic waste is things such as food scraps, paper towels, pizza boxes is a big one, again, that we like to really talk about. We see it ending up in our fiber stream a lot of the time. And unfortunately, pizza boxes are going to be covered in food and grease, so not really anything usable there. So we like to put that in the green bin. Same with our fast food cups and burger containers. So if you go to McDonald's, the bag is recyclable, the burger container is recyclable, the fry container is recyclable, and the cup as well. So just the lid and the straw would be garbage. And then the last one is butcher, wax, and parchment papers. So anything kind of cooking related can also go into our green bin. And then so once we collected that at the curb, it goes to our central composting facility. And this is located kind of in the same compound as our MRF and our collections office where all of our trucks are kept. So this facility opened up in 2006, mainly food waste. And we create a high quality compost from that. So we put it down in this area mainly to kind of keep the smell away from other residential neighborhoods. We used to accept yard waste previously at this facility, but now that goes up to our landfill only. So as of, I believe it was 2 or 3 years ago, the City of Hamilton does not accept any yard waste in the green bins. So yard waste, meaning grass clippings, leaves, twigs, plants, etc. All yard waste must be put to the curb in either a brown bag or an open top rigid reusable container. So you could use an old garbage can and you can get an approved yard waste sticker at any of our municipal service centers, or you can just call in and we can get one mailed out to you. So then you can just reuse that over and over and over again, and you can have multiples of these containers. So now that we've done the recycling and the composting, the last thing left after you can kind of recycle everything you can is the garbage. So you'll notice at the top here, the two big ones are the styrofoam and the black plastic. We've been sort of pushing residents for a number of years now to put these in the garbage. Unfortunately, a lot of it still does end up in our recycling streams. So again, we just really want to push that those are garbage. Again, with such things as the plastic utensils, a lot of people think that's just because it's plastic, it can be recyclable. Obviously, garbage, the diaper and the dog waste is garbage. If people come from different municipalities, it can sometimes be confusing because some municipalities accept diapers and dog waste into the green bin. But again, just go to hamilton.ca if you're unsure. So we have one landfill in the city of Hamilton, and that's up in Glanbrook. So that opened in 1980. There are 11 closed landfills around the greater Hamilton area. So currently we are at the end of phase 2 at our landfill. So we're hoping for another 25 years of use because of the successful diversion programs that have been introduced. And then finally, this is our community recycling center, could be also known as our dump or transfer station. So that would be things that, you can take your own garbage there, recycling and yard waste. We don't accept composting there though. So the CRCs in Hamilton, we have 3 locations. So there's one in Dundas, one in the east end of Hamilton on the mountain, and then there's one in the east end of Hamilton, down at Kenora. So these things accept electronics, cleaning chemicals, household hazardous waste, and batteries. So these are things that we don't want you putting in the curb. We really don't want these going to the curb or in any garbage bags. They could injure a collector or, create some sort of they could just sort of create an issue once they've been collected. So electronics could be anything such as televisions, radios, just anything with a battery mostly. So even like an old computer. Cleaning chemicals, Clorox, you'll see at the bottom. And then you'll notice that there is some paint cans at the bottom. So we do accept paint at our community recycling centers, but we will also accept them into our containers stream if there is very little paint and if it's completely dried out. So this is just sort of an interesting thing that we like to do at the end of our presentations. It's called How Long Does It Take to Break Down? So coffee pods, a lot of people are using, even the Nespresso still, or the Keurigs. So they say 500 years to break down. And if you do get the chance to go up to our landfill, you'll notice that it's just kind of peppered with little white coffee pods everywhere because they don't really break down. So same thing with the compostable pods. I know McDonald's created one that's sort of made of a cornstarch. Technically it is compostable, just not in our system here or really any other composting facility within North America. So it would just cost too much money to upgrade that. Plastic water bottles, again, could be 450 years for it to completely break down. So that's why we want to make sure it goes into the correct stream. Plastic straws, again, same plastic, 200 years. And then the fact is over 500 million plastic straws are thrown out every day in the US. And unfortunately, we couldn't get a Canadian stat on that, but that's still a very overwhelming and upsetting number. So that's it for us. Thank you so much. Again, if you have any questions, you can go to hamilton.ca/waste. You can call the city anytime. Ask city@hamilton.ca. And again, please search City of Hamilton Waste on YouTube. Any questions?
India, I just have a couple of comments actually while we wait to see if any of the viewers have any questions they wanted to bring up. But I wanted to say that I learned a lot in the presentation that you delivered today. And a couple of the things that I learned were that the fast food containers, like from McDonald's and things like that, the burger containers can go in the in the green bin like that. I didn't know that. That's awesome. And that you can get the sticker to go on reusable containers so that you don't have to keep buying the brown bags for yard waste. Those are things that I wasn't aware of before that are really important to know. I do have one question, and the closed landfills, what happens to those areas once they become closed?
So the ones that are closed, these are obviously very old and they predate me starting at the city by a number of years. But I do know there is one off of, I believe it's Mud. And if Jeff, if you know the name of it, it was a private landfill, but they've since converted it into soccer fields in the dog park. So, we do try and make the place usable again.
That's awesome. Sandra asked, where are the recordings going to be posted? So the recording of this webinar today will be posted on the Sustainability Office at Mohawk's YouTube channel, and you'll also see links to it on our Instagram so that you can connect and rewatch any part of this afterwards. So if there are no other questions or anything from our audience today, I just want to sincerely thank India and Paul for coming today. And Jeff, I'm so sorry, for coming today and for putting on this great presentation that we learned so much about. So thank you so much, India and Jeff, for your time.
Great. Thanks for having us.
Thanks so much, Amy.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Thanks.